Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Teaching Success Podcast. This is episode number 4, titled The Subconscious Mind. I just want to remind you all that each episode in the series builds off of each other. So if you haven't already, please make sure to go back and listen to the first 3 episodes before continuing on with the 4th episode. Okay, for everyone that's already listened to the first 3, let's just jump in and discuss the subconscious mind. Now, a lot of people may be familiar with the subconscious mind and the importance when it comes to success, to hitting your goals, to mindset, to all of that stuff. But for those of you who aren't, I cannot emphasize how important the subconscious mind is to success, to hitting your goals. And it doesn't matter what they are, it doesn't matter what you believe. If you don't even believe in the subconscious mind, if you don't think whatever, it is one of the most important things for you to understand and will almost be that breakthrough for you to help reach success, to help reach your goals. Again, whatever those goals are. Now, I'm going to try and keep this as simple as possible. I'm no expert in the brain by any means. And I'm sure most of you don't want me to go into great detail about every single function of the brain and all these different parts. So I'm going to try and keep it somewhat simple and straightforward and just relevant to the points we need to talk about, relevant to how it affects your success. You can break down the brain essentially into 2 different ways, and that's the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. Now, the conscious mind is the newest part of the brain. It's in the front here, the prefrontal cortex. It's the newest part, meaning it's the part that evolved most recently, and it's the part of the brain that most animals don't have, that really separates us from every other animal. And it's what allows us to think rationally, and really without the conscious mind, we would just be an animal. We wouldn't be anywhere close to what we are right now. But the conscious mind it's that analytical part. You're thinking right now, that is your conscious mind. Anything that you're conscious, try not to use the same word, but anything that you are aware of that you're doing, that is all your conscious mind. Your subconscious mind, on the other hand, is the older part of the brain. It's the part that almost every other single animal has. It's the part that is not analytical and is more emotional. It's the part that you're not actually aware of. It's the part that, for lack of a better word, runs your entire body. It's your subconscious mind regulates your breathing, your blood flow, your heartbeat, all of these things that, again, you're not consciously aware of. No one sits there and thinks about, I need my heart to beat, I need to pump the blood, I need to send signals to my hands. You don't think of any of that stuff. All of that stuff is subconscious. It's the things that you're not aware of. That's your subconscious mind. Now, the thing about the subconscious mind is it's extremely powerful. It's probably far more powerful than your conscious mind. If you were to break down your subconscious versus your conscious, this is probably where you hear people say, you only use 20% of your brain. That's not actually true, but what they're probably getting at is this conscious versus subconscious thinking in the brain. And the majority of stuff that you do is all subconscious, again, without you being aware of it. Your subconscious, like I said, is extremely powerful. It can process way more information. It is a lot quicker. It's, let's say you're sitting here and someone throws something at you. You don't think, oh, someone threw something at me, it's going to hurt me, I need to block that. You don't think about that. It's not your conscious mind. It's not your analytical mind. It's that subconscious mind. You just instantly react to whatever it is. That's all your subconscious stuff. But in order for it to do that, it needs to be super powerful. And like I said, it's that whole you use 20% of your brain, not entirely true. It's just that you're not aware of the other 80% of your brain that's being used because that stuff is all subconscious. A lot of this stuff, again, is almost automatic. You don't realize you're doing it. And when you're subconscious, I don't want to say you're aware of it, but you're almost aware of it. That's when you get, these gut feelings where, have you ever sat there and you have no idea why, but you get this feeling you need to do something, or you need to react a certain way, or whatever it is, but it comes almost as a feeling, not a thought. That's because it's your subconscious mind. And the way the subconscious mind processes stuff, because it's the older part of the brain, it doesn't use language. It doesn't understand the analytical things. So it uses more feelings and visualization. So for instance, when you're asleep and you're dreaming, you're almost entirely in your subconscious mind. You're not analytically thinking about a lot of this stuff. It just comes up as this feeling, as these images. So if you have a dream, and sometimes people have some really weird dreams and you have no idea what these dreams mean, it's because that's your subconscious mind trying to tell you something the only way that it can, through, again, feelings, through visualizations. And when it comes to dreams, a lot of times it's not accurate. Like if you dream of a certain thing happening, it doesn't mean that you're actually dreaming about that. That's just your subconscious trying to send you a message any way that it can. And it does it through this imagery and through the feeling, but it never does direct stuff, if that makes any sense. Now, like I said, your subconscious mind is extremely powerful and processes a lot of information. It does this in order to help you survive. If you were to be consciously aware of every single piece of information that you're actually intaking, you would be so overwhelmed, you'd be so paralyzed, you wouldn't be able to do anything, because there's so much information around us at all times that consciously you can't process that amount of information. And an example I want to use here to help you maybe understand that is someone who is autistic. Now, again, I'm not a medical doctor by any means. I'm not qualified, nothing like that, but a general overview, and again, this is a very, very general overview of someone who is autistic. You can think of it almost as their subconscious mind works stronger. Their conscious mind, the analytical part, doesn't necessarily, the two parts don't necessarily communicate together well. So a lot of times someone who is autistic, for instance, maybe they can't be in a room that's extremely bright. Maybe they can't be in a room that's very loud and there's all these different noises. The reason for that is because they're actually processing all of the information around them consciously. And again, there's so much information around us that, again, you cannot process it. And if your brain tries to process it, you end up like one of these people where the noise just gets too much and you have to leave because it's overwhelming, because there's way too much information. If you were in a room and let's say there was this high-pitched noise, initially, you're going to hear it. You're going to be very annoyed by it. Let's say it's a very loud, it's a very irritating noise. It's going to frustrate you. If you're in this room long enough and the noise is still there, and let's say you're just trying to work, you're writing things, you're doing whatever, again, you won't necessarily be conscious of this, but over time, you're going to stop noticing that noise as much. It's going to stop bothering you as much. Now, that noise is still there. It doesn't go away. It hasn't changed at all. But what happens is your brain starts to process it a little bit different. So even though the noise is there, you don't become consciously aware of it. And over time, you can get to the point where you don't even hear that noise anymore until you get distracted. Let's say someone walks in the room, disrupts you, and now all of a sudden, oh, there's that noise again. That's so irritating, right? But the reason why that happens is it's that communication between the conscious and the subconscious mind. So again, people who are autistic, there's a breakdown in that communication there. And now I don't want to get too off track, but the point of that is just to show how much information there is around at all times that our brain is trying to process. And most of that stays subconscious. Only a small fraction of that is actually conscious. But that doesn't mean that that information isn't there, and it doesn't mean that that information doesn't get stored, and that that information doesn't affect you somehow down the road. From an evolutionary standpoint, our modern world is still relatively new. We have not evolved to live in this world. Our subconscious mind still works very much on the, will this kill me? What do I need to do to stay alive? And that's really all. It focuses just on the basic needs: food, shelter, procreation. That's what our subconscious mind really is focusing on. And it's going to hold beliefs and stories and look at different patterns about all of these things. And primarily, it's about survival. It does everything it can to survive, even if that thing doesn't necessarily make sense. Now, this I found kind of fascinating, but the majority of people who fall into cold water, so let's say even like on the Titanic, or you're on a boat or whatever, or you just fall through the ice and you end up in really cold water. I thought the majority of people would die from exposure to the elements, from hypothermia. That's not actually true. The majority of people who fall into cold water actually die from drowning, and they actually die relatively quick. Now, the reason for this is because of your subconscious mind, believe it or not. As soon as you fall into cold water, your body, for whatever reason, gasps. It inhales as much air as it can, because I don't know why. It probably thinks it's trying to get one last breath of air before whatever. I don't know the reason behind it, but you fall into cold water and you gasp, you inhale. And the problem is, you just plunged into water, you have that automatic reflex, you're going to inhale a bunch of water and you're probably going to drown. So the point of that is, your body does things that it thinks is in your best interest, that it thinks is for survival, even if that's not necessarily true, even if that hinders it. So when it comes to success, when it comes to reaching your goals, what you need to understand is your brain is going to have these beliefs, these stories, these different things that it's trying to keep you alive. So as much as consciously you're trying to hit your goals, you're trying to be successful, you're trying to do these things that you know consciously is good for you and is going to help you, you're always fighting your subconscious mind if you have these negative beliefs, if you have these negative stories. It doesn't matter if it's actually going to be beneficial. It's something that's new, something that's different, something that your brain doesn't recognize. And it thinks that that's going to lead to death or harm, but basically non-survival. So it will often fight you against these things, even though analytically, consciously, again, the front part of your brain, you know you need to do this stuff. Your subconscious mind is going to fight you for it, because all it's trying to do is to survive. And this is really where limiting beliefs come from. Again, if you go back to the previous episode, we talked a little bit about limiting beliefs. We're going to do a full episode about it in the future. But this is where the limiting beliefs come from, is the fact that your subconscious mind is constantly scanning, constantly taking in information, learning all these things, observing, forming beliefs, forming stories, trying to recognize patterns, and trying to find a way to survive. So even though it's counterintuitive, you know that doing these steps are going to help you, your subconscious mind is often trying to fight you because it's simply trying to survive. That's why it's incredibly important to surround yourself around the right people, to surround yourself in the right environment, to listen to the right things, to not listen to the negative things. Again, this is stuff that we're going to get into even more depth in future episodes, but it's incredibly important to surround yourself with positive things, things that are actually going to help you reach your goals, that are going to reinforce the fact that your goals are possible, that you can be successful, and stay away from the negative stuff as much as you possibly can. And a lot of it comes to self-talk. Exposure is one thing, self-talk is probably even more powerful. So a lot of times you may be aware of it, you may not even be aware of it completely, but a lot of times we talk a lot of negative stuff to ourselves each and every day. I think the average human has somewhere around 20,000 thoughts per day, and the majority of them are negative. So if you're constantly telling yourself negative things over and over again, I can't be successful, I can't be rich, I'll never be rich, money is evil, I'm always going to be overweight, I'm a terrible person, I'm this, I'm that, all of these bad things, all that does is reinforce this negative stuff to your subconscious brain, to your subconscious mind, and again, it's going to make it so much harder for you to analytically overcome this stuff because your subconscious mind is more powerful and it's constantly going to be trying to fight you. If you look at someone who was born rich versus someone who was born poor, they grew up in completely different environments. They have different thoughts, they have different beliefs, they have different stories, all of these different things. If you take these two people, let's say, there's someone born rich, there's someone who is born poor. You take them away from their current world. They are now completely equal. You set them up, move them to a new city. You give them both an apartment. You give them basic amount of money for food and whatever, and ask them to basically start over their lives. Not guaranteed, but most likely the person who was born rich, who believes that they can be rich, who believes that success is possible, chances are that person is going to once again be successful in their life. If you look at that person who is born poor, put into the exact same situation as a person who is born wealthy, has the exact same opportunities currently, chances are they're going to end up poor again. And again, the reason for that is the subconscious mind, because in that person's mind, they don't believe that it's possible. It doesn't matter that you gave them a home, you got them a car, you gave them money, you gave them whatever. Their self-talk, their beliefs are probably going to be, this is a temporary thing. It's not for me. I'm going to end up poor again. Whereas the rich person's probably saying, great, this is an opportunity to start over. I know I can do it. I know what I need to do. I'm going to be rich. I'm going to be successful. It all comes down to this self-talk and to this exposure to the world. Again, chances are the one person's going to end up this way, the other person's going to end up that way, regardless of everything else. And it's because of the subconscious mind. And that's why I really want to reiterate how important the subconscious mind is to success, to reaching your goals. Aristotle, the Greek philosopher, actually talked about this a long time ago. This is nothing new. There's nothing, again, complicated about this. They knew this back in ancient Greek days. Aristotle said, "Give me a boy until the age of 7, and I will show you the man." And what he meant by that is exactly this, the subconscious mind, the power of that. If you give him a young boy, and he sees what the boy is exposed to, what he learns, what he's around, the stories he hears, what he ends up believing is possible, he knows, not with complete certainty, but he has an overall general idea of where this person's going to end up in their life. Because, again, our subconscious mind is that powerful. You think that all of these things you're doing logically, that you have full control. You don't necessarily. And I'm not saying that there's no such thing as free will and you can make changes, because absolutely you can. And that's the whole point of this podcast, is to show you that you can make changes. You can overcome things. You're not destined to be the way you are right now. But the point of this is it is difficult because of the subconscious mind, because of the power of it, because of how much power it holds behind the stories, behind the beliefs, and how it communicates with the conscious mind. And again, it's that battle between the conscious and the subconscious. And for you to be successful, to reach your goals, you really need to start working on your subconscious mind. You need to work analytically 100%. And that's where if you watched the last episode, the 7 steps, that is a very analytical, simple process. But that's not enough. That's just following that won't necessarily get you success, won't necessarily help you reach your goals. It's part of it, but the much bigger part is, again, that subconscious mind. And one of the easiest and most powerful ways to help change your subconscious mind, to help change your identity, your beliefs, all of these things, is through self-talk. The subconscious mind works a lot on patterns, on repetitions. There's a reason when it comes to learning, repetition is king. A lot of different learning methods focus on repetition. And the reason why is because, again, it hits that subconscious mind. If you tell your subconscious enough times something is true or something is not true, eventually you'll start to believe it subconsciously, and then it'll come to the conscious mind, to the prefrontal cortex. And one of the easiest ways to work on that is through self-talk. So this is the homework for the week. What I want you guys to do is 2 parts. One is spend a day just observing your self-talk. Just make it conscious. Be consciously aware of what you're saying to yourself. Are you saying positive things? Are you saying negative things? And how often are you actually talking to yourself? It's amazing once you actually start paying attention to this. You don't necessarily realize how much you talk to yourself and how much negative stuff you say to yourself. So I want you to spend one day just being aware of your self-talk. From there, I want you to spend the next 2 days. This is the difficult part, is I want you to go 2 days without having a negative thought. Now, this is extremely difficult and you're going to fail. And I'll just put that out there. It's almost impossible for anyone, especially if this is the first time you're learning of this concept, to go 2 days without any sort of negative self-talk. And that's fine. All I want you to do for these 2 days is try and keep as much positive self-talk as possible. And if you notice yourself saying anything negative, any negative self-talk, I want you to stop right there, stop your thoughts, and change that thought to a positive thought, right? So again, let's say, I'll just keep it simple. You're trying to hit your goal. You want to be successful, and you're thinking, you know what? That doesn't make any sense. I'm not going to be successful. It's not. Just stop right there. Whatever you said, just say the opposite, make it into a positive. So instead of, I'm never going to reach my goals, stop that thought, switch it. I am going to reach my goals. I am going to be successful. And it's as simple as that. You don't even have to believe it. Doesn't matter what it is. For now, you just try and go 2 days with that. Now, there is a benefit to having some negative thoughts. You can't just be positive all the time. There is such a thing as toxic positivity. There is a benefit to having some negative things. Sometimes you have to reach a certain point of negativity, of hurt, of anger, of basically, hitting rock bottom before you bounce back up. That's fine. Just go 2 days where you're trying to be entirely positive. This is not a thing for forever where you're always going to say positive things, never have a negative thought. That's not the point of this exercise. The point is to just go 2 days to help you be more aware and to help you just start shifting your thoughts. And that's it for today's episode. Thanks so much for listening in, and I'll see you guys on the next episode. Thanks a lot and have a great day.